But here I am and welcome. I'm glad you were able to join this live stream about food, glucose, insulin, and blood sugar. My name is Swindia. I am a certified master health coach, and I work with working professionals who have been diagnosed with prediabetes and are trying to lower their blood sugars through healthy eating and adding movement throughout their workday. And I'm here on my balcony, so I hope the airplanes, the cars, the crickets, and the birds don't bother the background noise too much. So let's get started. So let's first start with food. As a health coach, the people that I talk to, the clients that I talk to, we all know what are the good foods that we should eat and what are the foods that maybe we shouldn't eat so often. And we make our choices day to day, based on what's available to us, whether we know that those are the right foods that we should eat or whether they're not. But once you've become diagnosed with prediabetes, and if you truly want to avoid developing type 2 diabetes, then making smarter choices about what you eat really has to start being implemented. If not, it is your prediabetes is bound to become type 2 diabetes. So, to avoid that, let's just talk a little bit about good and bad foods. So, carbs is probably the most talked about food when it comes to blood sugar, and that's because carbs, whether the good kind or the bad kind, um, our body processes them down to into glucose, which is sugar. So you have your good carbs, which may be whole wheat, whole, anything that you see with whole, which is a complete, nothing's been pulled out, nothing. Think about bread, for example, whole wheat bread versus white bread. If you flip to look at the nutritional facts on the back of them, you can see which one has more carbs and which ones don't. Usually the white is enriched with more stuff, and the good stuff has been pulled out, making it a little less healthier than a whole wheat option. I personally really like Ezekiel bread. I didn't think I was, but I have been stuck on it for several years now, and it's the only thing I buy. Um, some bad carbs can be easily identified as processed. Anything that comes in a box, anything that comes wrapped up in plastic, something that has a list of ingredients a mile long, bad carbs. And These are also called complex and simple carbs, but we're not going to dive deep into that. I just wanted to introduce carbs into the conversation about food. Fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are delicious and they're great. And even as a pre diabetic, the misconception of thinking that you cannot eat fruit because they have sugar is a bit of a myth, because there are some vegetables that are high in sugar content, such as pineapples, and there are others, such as apples, that have a lower sugar content per serving. So if you can't go throughout the whole day eating just fruit, but just balancing out which fruits you do eat and how much of it is just fine throughout your day. If you like fruit as part of a meal or after a meal, as dessert, or if it's just a snack, fruits and vegetables are a-okay in whatever quantity. Um, Meats, I'm a vegetarian. I won't go into meats that much. It's been 20 something years since I last ate meat or seafood. But lean meats are your best choices, and unprocessed meat as well. And something that you cook yourself, season yourself, is always going to be a healthier choice. And then we've got drinks. Um, Now, I think it's been a year now since the nutritional facts on the back of anything that you drink will have the added sugar list listed on there. So you have to take in consideration that the amount of sugar is the line item that's the sugar plus the added sugar. And that is going to be the total sugars in that drink. Um, I'm mindful that I have to have my coffee in the morning, and I usually have it from Starbucks if I don't make it at home. And I know it is full of sugar. But looking at my diet throughout the day, I am mindful of that. If I had a Starbucks drink or from any coffee shop, I'm mindful that um, of what I eat for the rest of the day because I've loaded myself up with a lot of sugar from that one coffee, from the syrup that they use in it, the milk, um, and just the syrup itself has that. I mean, it's sweet. I gotta have something sweet in my coffee. I'm not a black coffee drinker. I can't do it. So knowing what you drink, if it's high in sugar, can help you be more mindful about what you follow up after you drink that. If you have a Coke or a soda or something in the afternoon, and you compound that with a sandwich made out of, white bread, um, and let's see, a lot of condiments, ketchup, more sugar. So you've got your drink, your um, the bread, which is going to turn into sugar, the condiments on that sandwich that is going to be broken down into sugar. You're compounding that more and more. So just be mindful that's all sugar that your body in the end is going to process everything into. And then starches. Starches are your potatoes, your plantains. Um, Starches are have a high impact because they're processed into glucose, into sugar by your body. So potatoes chips that are fried potatoes, French fries that go with your sandwich. Now you're compounding even more sugar onto your meal without even knowing, really, because most of us don't consider eating French fries as something that's high in sugar because there's no sugar in it. But your body breaks down starches such as into sugar, into glucose for energy. Um, and so let's go into the next thing about glucose. So, glucose is just another term for sugar. But once it's in your bloodstream, instead of calling it sugar, the medical field calls it glucose. So, it's the same thing. Glucose, sugar, same exact thing. And again, glucose is you're when you eat sugar and it goes into your bloodstream, now it's considered glucose. So from here on out, if you hear me say glucose, it's the sugar that's in your bloodstream. So you eat or drink something, your body processes it, breaks it down into, wherever it needs to go. It processes all of the sugar into glucose, processes your carbs into glucose, and your starches into glucose. Now, that glucose goes into your bloodstream and it's floating through your bloodstream. I'm going to bring in props now. This is a cell in your body floating around through your bloodstream, trying to gather as much energy to fuel your body. Your body is fueled by glucose. So you need sugar to have energy and to run your internal organs and keep you breathing and thinking and walking and talking. So you need the glucose, you need that sugar to fuel your cells that are going to fuel your body. So this little prop here, can you tell I have a child? Blocks are going to be my props today. So consider this your glucose. Your glucose has to get into the cell. It doesn't just automatically get in there. It's not allowed. It needs a receptor to open up the cell. That receptor is insulin. Insulin is blue. What is insulin? So insulin is produced by your pancreas. It's a hormone, and it allows the cell to open. Oh, your cell is open by the insulin. Now your glucose can come in, fuel the cell, and off the cell goes to run your body. And that process gets repeated a gazillion times a day. Um, and so you when we talk about or when you hear that you have high blood sugar, it's because you have a ton of glucose floating through your blood system, and that cannot fuel and get into your cell. Because that cell cannot open. Just because there's a lot of glucose in your blood system doesn't mean that the cell will automatically open and that you'll get energy from it. You won't. You need the insulin to open the cell and fuel and get the sugar out of your bloodstream and into the cell. So, what happens over time is that you have such a high demand. Let's say you have that sandwich plus the french fries and the soda 3 times a day, which seems unrealistic. But for many people, it's what they eat. And so over time, the receptors aren't produced as much. Your pancreas is, it's an organ. It's working hard to reproduce and produce more insulin, but the demand is so high, it can't keep up with the demand, supply and demand. So over time, you have more blood that is kept in, sorry, you have more glucose that is kept in your blood system, in your bloodstream. And so if you've been diagnosed with prediabetes, it's because you have a high amount of glucose floating around in your bloodstream. And that is not a good thing, because it will affect your arteries, which can affect your many other organs, including your heart. So we have to get that sugar out of the bloodstream into your cells and operating as best as possible. If your pancreas isn't producing enough insulin, what you can do is lower how much sugar your body is getting. And so let's talk about that. How do you just, stop eating that soda or stop eating those french fries? If those are your favorite foods, or let's say it's the only thing that you can afford, you can't afford vegetables and fruits to eat every day or cook every day. You have to eat out or you have to order out. We're in a pandemic right now. You can't go to the store as easily, or there are certain foods that aren't available to you. So what do? Just be mindful. Now that you have a little bit of knowledge about how your food affects your bloodstream, just make wiser choices as you go forward. If you have Starbucks in the morning, or a coffee with lots of sugar in it, lots of milk, consider what you're going to follow that up with. Will you choose white bread, or will you choose whole wheat? Will you choose to eat a plate with a lot of pasta on it and very little vegetable, or more vegetables and just a smaller portion of pasta? No one's saying that you have to stop eating your favorite foods, but in order to help your pancreas out and lower your blood sugar, something has to change. And it starts with diet. It starts with what you eat. And I didn't mean to use the word diet, because eating healthy is not a diet. It's just simply eating healthier. And for pre-diabetics, it's eating healthier, and so that you don't develop a chronic disease like type 2 diabetes, which can lead on to other things. So just to recap, foods that become glucose, which is the sugar in your bloodstreams, are carbs and starches. Those get broken down into sugar. Your glucose is the term used for for sugar in your bloodstream. Insulin is the hormone that opens up your cell so that the glucose can fuel your cell and take care of your body. And in order to prevent your prediabetes from becoming type 2 diabetes, you must try to lower your sugar intake. And again, starches and carbs add to that sugar intake. So reducing how much of that you eat. It's not saying that you have to cut it out completely, but reducing how much of that you eat will help lower your numbers at your next doctor's visit, and hopefully lower your blood sugar enough that it's out of the pre-diabetics range. So, my name is Swindia. I'm very happy that you were here to watch this quick video all about food, glucose, insulin, and blood sugar. And if you have any questions, you can reach me here on Facebook or go to my website at www.swindiakarina.com. I have plenty of resources available and including a freebie as well right there on my website. So grab your freebie. It's 6 action steps that you can start taking now once you've been diagnosed with prediabetes. One of them, for example, is coloring your food. So I'll leave you with that small little hint.